Good morning and welcome to another LinkedIn Live discussion brought to you by Optiv, the cyber advisory and solutions leader. Thanks for joining us today. We host these sessions on LinkedIn because we want to hear from you in real time. So don't hesitate to drop any questions you have or thoughts in the comments as we do our best to get to them during the conversation or at the end. I'm Marty McDonald, a principal advisor here at Optiv in our SIEM space. And with me today is Ed Lewis, who's one of our cloud managing partners at Optiv. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit more about the evolution of the security information and event management market, better known as SIEM. We'll dive deep into the world of SIEM and talk about how the technology is making it more proactive and helping us to really close the gap on some of those cyber risks that are out there. The role cloud's playing in that and how it's helping us to be more efficient and effective with our tools and making sure that we're getting the most out of them. Let's start with a question from our audience. How does your organization utilize SIEM? Add your thoughts and comments now and during the conversation. Ed, would you like to kick us off?
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks, Marty. And hey, everyone at home or at the office. It's great to be with you here today. Maybe to start things off, so I mean, SIEM has long been a critical tool for security operations centers. It's often been treated as like that centralized security tool that everything kind of builds off. But it's long been used really to manage that cyber risk. But how has SIEM really evolved over time, and how organizations now using SIEM for advanced threat detection, investigation, and response?
Yeah, I think I realized recently that I did my first SIEM deployment in 2005. So now that's 20 years ago, which is crazy to think about. But as we look over that 20-year time span, and SIEM's been around a bit longer than that, but not much. The tools really started out as more of just let's centralize all the logs. Let's do some level of parsing and normalization so that we could do some correlation across the log sets to try and bring to light the things that we were seeing in all those individual point tools and be able to show if something happened on more than one system across different log source types. And as time has moved on, that portion of SIEM continues to grow and get better and become more broadly out in the market. And we're also seeing things like the user and entity behavior analytics space really grow into the SIEM world. So there we're seeing a lot more of that advanced analytics, whether it's machine learning or some level of risk-based alerting that's being brought into the tools to really help bring the things that were more of the unknown unknowns to us. With the traditional correlation, we could really see the known knowns. We knew what we were looking for, and we could find those things. We could sometimes build some fuzzy logic into the older rules-based SIEMs to help find some of the unknown unknowns, but we're generally really just looking for the known knowns there as much as anything else. And then lastly, the big evolving change right now, a couple are the advent of SOAR being brought into the SIEMs themselves, and so we're having more of that platform where we're doing the traditional correlation, the more advanced analytics, and we're able to take some response actions now out of the SIEM tool or out of a third-party tool as well. So it's bringing a lot more capability to our SOCs and giving them a lot more things that they can work in and around. And then, I think we always have to mention AI. And so the AI bits are also really starting to come in and help with either making our junior analysts function more like a senior and helping them do the searches or look up data faster or do some of that SOAR automation for us. And so there's definitely a lot happening there now. We continue to see some consolidation in the market. As Logarithm and Exabeam have merged now, and Palo Alto has purchased all of the IBM SaaS applications and brought that into their fold. I think we'll continue to see that market continue to condense. It seems like there's a new player every other week, and so even though folks have said SIEM's dead for years, it seems like there's new all the time. A question back for you, Ed. What cloud-based SIEM are you seeing out there, and how are the latest cloud technologies making SIEM more proactive for threat detection?
Like maybe taking a step back, I mean, like cloud in general, probably it was probably 10 years plus since that became, much more mainstream. Like all the different CSPs and the move to more SaaS-based applications, and that since then the market has really embraced it and embraced it at pace. And I think SIEM is no different to that. In fact, the majority of the SIEM solutions available today are actually cloud-based. There's only a handful which which remain on-prem or remain on-prem with on-prem options rather. And one of the big drivers for this, really has been cost, right? If you look at the more traditional SIEM solutions, a few years back, the log costs were just increasing exponentially, right? And it was a great business model for the SIEM providers because many of the organizations using SIEMs needed to have say a mandatory 7-year period in order to store those logs, for audit compliance. So over time those log costs kept growing and the costs of those logs kept growing, right? So that the actual cost, the log costs were increasing in addition to the volume of logs increasing. So again, great business model if you're a SIEM provider. But that was a real challenge for organizations and security teams because their budgets weren't necessarily going up, and they were having to maintain the security posture of their organization, their environment, balancing all the other security technologies that they were needed in order to secure their enterprise and everything like that. So cloud really became a way in which you could find alternatives to that log storage, whether it be S3 buckets, whether it be other storage solutions. But that really helped. And interestingly, what started as a storage problem really became an on-ramp for a number of the more modern SIEM solutions that are out there to be able to kind of level the playing field a little bit, or at least find a path to compete with some of the big boys. So it's been really interesting how that's transformed over the past couple of years, largely due to a business problem, cost. How do we solve for this cost problem? And some organizations are really good at doing that, and as a result, they were able to gain quite a large market share of what was otherwise a pretty tied up market with some very large players in there. So I think that's definitely a big part of it. I think that with that and with cloud also comes innovation, right? So it's definitely helped the pace of innovation increase in these solutions, and it's also helped really stitch disparate information together in a more unified and cohesive way that ultimately helps organizations manage risk more efficiently and in a more sophisticated way. So that's my 2 cents on that. But maybe back over to you, Marty. So why should organizations really adapt the next generation of SIEM?
Yeah, and I think I'll start by sort of defining how I see SIEMs today. There's the more traditional SIEM that is that more correlation rules focused, doesn't have the more advanced analytics, and the next gen or modern SIEM is where we start to see more of those more advanced features come in, the UABA, the SOAR capabilities. And so that next gen SIEM really brings a lot of that additional functionality to you that you didn't see in the traditional SIEM. And like you were saying, that the cloud SIEM allows the vendors to keep up with what's happening in the market instead of needing to create a patch and push it out, and then folks maybe or maybe not deploy it whenever they want to. The cloud SIEM or the SaaS-based tools are really allow that speed to happen much faster, and so vendors are able to push out new content or new patches or new capabilities much faster than they were in the past. I mentioned the AI and the machine learning earlier. I think that is also a huge area that the next gen SIEMs are really bringing to the market. Being able to have all the data that train across, or train on just the not client data, really has been a huge impactful thing. We're not seeing a lot of detections being built by the AI yet. Most of that's still being built in machine learning by humans, but I think we'll get to that point eventually. There's some new tools out there that are more security operations centers in a box, or they're looking to do more level 1, level 2 kind of analyst work for you, that are all AI driven now. So Radiant Security is one that comes to mind there. I think they're really doing a nice job of bringing all that stuff together for you, and their detections are machine learning still, but their AI is learning and is starting to bring things forward to you, and things like Exabeam or Google SecOps. They're using the Gemini model, and that's been really impactful for a lot of our clients to be able to find the search faster or to be able to look up information, to really be able to do things in a more efficient way than they have in the past. And then, really helping to triage the incidents over time is another area. So whether that is those SOAR capabilities of being able to go and grab some additional information from a virus total or a URL defend or something, or reach out to Proofpoint to grab some additional information, whatever that might look like, to pull all that information together so that when we do get an alert out of the system, it's actionable. And that's always something that we see a lot of clients really struggle with, is getting a truly actionable event out of the SIM. Because if it's just telling you, the EDR found something bad, that's not as helpful as if it said the EDR found something bad on a machine that's really impactful in our organization and it's not patched for that thing. We need to know that faster. And so pulling in all those additional enrichment sources so that we're not having to swivel chair between all of our security tools. We have it all in the alert. And some clients find success building all that type of enrichment into their SIM tools. Others do it more with their SOAR. And so you have options there to really bring all that together and make it better for yourself. But it is a challenge to get it all built out for sure. And we're also seeing the AIs do a little bit of that response action for us. So they're able to do some of the checking, the things that we would have done with more Python scripts in the past. Now the AI has done for us. So it's able to go and check some of those virus total things. And as long as we've told it, these are where our risk is, our tolerance is, it can run a lot of those playbooks for us. So it will often just close things as false positives so that our analysts never have to see it. So that's really helped us to improve a lot of the efficiency and drive down our false positive rate that humans need to be involved in. It's not to say that we don't still need humans. I think that's a very key part for any SIM or SOAR. I often talk about SIM being like a puppy. It requires constant care and love and attention, and it really is that way. If you're not having a human look at it periodically to see what's going on, as good as all of our detections are, sometimes it's still the human going, huh, that's weird, that finds the badness in the environment. So we always need humans involved, but we can make our humans a lot more efficient as we bring in all these more advanced capabilities. So I'll throw one back to you now, Ed. Will cloud-based SIM solutions replace our on-site options, or do you think there's still a place for on-site or hybrid approaches?
So I think a lot of the market has really taken a SaaS-based solution to this, so cloud-based. I think, again, there was many reasons for that, patching being a big one, cost management being another one, and also just like the pace of innovation and some of the services that the cloud-based solutions really enable. There are still some hybrid or on-prem solutions available. And in terms of will one replace the other completely, I'm not sure. I mean, if you look at cloud in general and the way that the market has really embraced that over the years, many organizations went headfirst, tried to move fully to the cloud, and we're seeing a little bit of an adjustment right now where people are considering, well, what makes sense? What makes sense on-prem? What makes sense cloud or multi-cloud, or ultimately multi-cloud hybrid? So that's cloud in general, and they're doing that for largely because of a cost optimization play. So if you have a very, very effective and well-run data center or on-prem solution, even if you're leasing it or it's not entirely yours, if you're able to manage that cost profile well enough, then yeah, there's potential that you could do a hybrid solution or an on-prem solution that meets your business needs and your business objectives. So it's possible. Is it hard to do? It's harder to do. I think. Interestingly, like if you were to ask me around cloud in general, I'd say multi-cloud hybrid, taking a best of breed approach to cloud, with on-prem solutions makes a lot of sense. Like an example would be things like training AI models. You can do that in the cloud, but it can get expensive doing that in the cloud. So maybe train them on-prem and then move them to the cloud or host them to the cloud so that you can build services off that, give access to your business and your business access to those models, at the touch of a button, right, or on the end user device. So I think that model could have merit within SIM, but I think that the market, at least from the SIM provider standpoint, really embraced the SaaS model and push that model to a point where it did become very cost effective to be able to operate, and to be able to store logs, access it, run analytics, and all those things on it. So I'd say it depends. I'd say SaaS based is definitely really taken an uptick in adoption, and I don't see that slowing down. But many people, many organizations or CISOs, they want choice, and business, each business has their own needs and their own objectives, and for some, having an on-prem solution or a hybrid solution may be critical for their business. So I think we'll still see the option, but I think that the majority will continue down the SaaS-based model just because of some of the advantages that it affords, and also because it isn't a SaaS-based model that is cost prohibitive, unlike maybe some of the other areas of cloud. But what about you, Marty? Like, what do you think the future looks like based off the latest trends around SIEM and SOC teams in general?
We're seeing a couple of different sort of divergent paths at this point. For some of our clients, it's really let's build modular so we can make things a lot easier for ourselves in the future. And so they're looking at the data pipeline management space. They're looking at a third-party SOAR tool, and then that analytics component in the middle is a little bit easier to switch out when we have all that other stuff around us. And the data pipeline management space, I think, is definitely an area that enables that modern SIEM a lot more. We're not having to do all of the work of log collection and parsing and normalization in the SIEM as much. And for some of the newer SIEM technologies out there that don't have 10, 15, 20 years worth of experience, having someone else do that hard work for you just makes it so much better. And so we really see a lot of Cribble and Databon out there now helping our clients getting those logs into the SIEM tool. And that's just made a huge difference. And then on the other side of it, we see a lot of the things happening in SOAR right now where they're doing a little bit more of that analyst in a box kind of thing to make it a lot easier for clients. One of my favorite AI names out there right now is from Torque. They've named theirs Socrates, which I just think is the most fun name ever. And it's really a helpful thing that they've built into the tool now. And as we think about this stuff, the SaaS vendors, like you're saying, the ROI from the on-prem to the SaaS, the licensing cost is often quite a bit larger, but the overall total cost of ownership isn't when we start factoring in all the different things. And so migrating to the cloud has made a lot of sense for a lot of our clients, just so they don't have to deal with that day-to-day maintenance of stuff from the on-prem. But I mentioned two paths. The second path we see is folks doing a little bit more hub and spoke or distributed SIEM now. So many of the other point security tools out there do such a great job of doing the detection and potentially response that we don't necessarily need to centralize everything anymore. And so using those data pipeline management tools, we're able to send all the logs to some type of centralized location, whether it's an S3 bucket or some type of data lake, where we can search the logs. And then we just send to the SIEM the minimum logs we need there to do correlation across our log sources to help keep costs down, because that's always a huge area for our clients. And then we rely on our CSPM tools to alert us there. We rely on our EDR tools, our NDR tools, all the other tools out there that are doing that detect and response for us near to the data, near to where the logs are being generated. And those tools are all purpose built to do the thing that they're doing. And so it really allows the SIEM to focus broadly, and then those tools to focus on the specific set of data or specific set of activities that they were designed to work on. So those are kind of the two divergent paths. I think we definitely see more of the UEBA coming into the market. That is, if we look at the Magic Quadrant, I think that is definitely one of the things that they look at now when they're grading those SIEM vendors out there. And so that is definitely a big area of focus that most of our clients are looking at. Some are looking at that part just for the insider risk or insider threat portion of their use case and need. Others are looking at it for that more broad sweep of just helping me find those unknown unknowns. So I think those are a few of the things. Where the SaaS-based tools are really going to allow a lot more future forward I think, for us, because again, they're a little bit more elastic in their compute. They bring a lot more capabilities to us, and most of the providers are building off the top of some of the cloud-based providers systems. So whether it's using Looker and BigQuery and Google, whether it's using some of the things that AWS has, whether it's their AI models or others, to really help bring those best things to our clients, and help to keep costs down as much as we can as we look at things. So Ed, one more back to you. How do you think companies can prepare for their next gen SIM?
Yeah, so I think next gen SIM and SIM and security in general, right? What we're seeing across the board is not that I'm a huge fan of the word, but platformization, right? Where there's really a collapsing of security tools. And I think if you've been to Black Hat or RSA in the past couple of years, it's amazing just how many security companies are out there, right? And I think that's great from an innovation standpoint, and I think ultimately the end user customers, citizens benefit from having that much focus and money going into cybersecurity. However, that's also a little bit exhausting, and I think challenging for organizations and CISOs to manage that portfolio of having so many different security tools within their architecture. I think where naturally there's a big shift towards a platform play where we're seeing things that may have historically been separate point-to-point solutions, like SIM and SAW, really easy example, right? Left hand shaking the right. But that was historically siloed, right? You would have a SIM and then maybe you have a SAW if you have enough capability in your org to really get that up and running to get an ROI. Things like integration into your endpoint, your vulnerability management solutions, your firewalls. I mean, what we're seeing is really a shift towards all of those different applications natively being integrated to one another because maybe because they're the same vendor, or both respective companies have integrated well into the integration of those things. So the benefit of that is firstly visibility, right? Having the fabled single pane of glass, having that single pane of glass with applications that are talking to each other and sharing information. I mean, the Security Operations Center, I mean, that's its whole kind of MO, right? It's reason for existence, is to really be able to pull together disparate information, things that look suspicious, things that should be investigated, and for a SOC analyst to be able to investigate that and be able to pull on the string until they find the bad actor in your environment or the misconfiguration or what have you. I think that there's a lot of merit to that platformization. And once you start talking AI, right, which is again, if you go to RSA or Black Hat, or really any tech conference these days, to be honest, I mean, usually there's going to be an AI talk track, right? And it's long past that science project phase. It's very much being used in production, both client LLMs, but also integrated into the tools themselves. And at the core of what is AI, I mean, in the security space, think of it as a really good data analytics model. So if you've got this market trend of collapsing security tools into more platform-based solutions, plus a really mature AI engine that is capable of being able to triage effectively and ultimately, have some element of an automated response. I mean, that's huge. And arguably that's necessary because the market's going there because so are the bad actors, right? So are the nation states. That if organizations are using AI to solution problems for themselves and to provide security problems, you can bet your bottom dollar that nation states and criminal organizations are going to use it just the same. And we're already seeing that in areas like phishing becoming much more mature than it ever was. Being able to rely on grammatical errors and different things like that, that's not going to happen anymore because AI knows grammar, believe it or not. So I think that that is where it's kind of going. So I think in terms of how do organizations really prepare for that, I think it's really working with, I mean, at times organizations have, even within security, a little bit of a siloed approach to how they make decisions, how they structure, how they choose tools. The vulnerability management tool sits over here, and the SOC team sits over here, and the threat and application security team sits over here. And maybe they talk, maybe they don't. They should. I mean, and coordinating decisions, particularly when the market is going towards a platform-based approach. I mean, you need to get buy-in from each of those teams, each of those leaders, because the vulnerability management team may not want to use the platform play, or maybe they're really happy with the tool that they're using today, right? But getting buy-in so that you're able to get to a more common platform that is talking to each other, that has that visibility, it's going to reduce the blind spots that an organization has. So I think being able to collaborate across leaderships, and that more than likely will need to extend into IT and maybe the business as well. But if that's difficult, or even if an organization doesn't have that talent and capability to, or just experience with some of the next gen SIEM tools and security tools writ large, I would say seek an advisor, seek a partner to help you with that. Optiv certainly helps clients every single day around making the right investment decisions around their security stack. But there's plenty of other vendors out there that can do that. The vendors themselves will definitely share their opinion on the tooling that you have and why theirs is the best. But I would say, when in doubt, ask the question, right? And find a partner that can help you answer that question. Or have your people invest the time to really research and to understand how you're going to really solution these things, because the future is here. So it is something that organizations really need to take a step back and look at the bigger picture rather than a silo-based approach. I think you've mentioned, from a solution standpoint, you mentioned a number of players, right? That are out there. Like you've got the more, I guess I would say, incumbents, like the larger shops, like Palo, Splunk, right? They've been in this space for a really long time, and yeah, they have great solutions. You've got the more modern players that are entering this space, like Pribble and Elastic and Talk and Tines. And that's been really interesting to see how different companies take different approaches to different things. Like I used to lead the SOAR practice at Optiv, and security automation was very much contained in a little box, right? And some of the vendors, the newer vendors, have really taken an approach of, well, automation is automation, right? So why don't we extend our capability? So things like having RPA or BPA sitting over on one side, and then security automation sitting over on the other side. At the end of the day, it's a fancy macro, right? So why can't you extend some of those use cases? Why can't you have a more holistic approach and break down some of those barriers between security and IT, which has always been a challenge. So we're definitely seeing that. So that's a really interesting kind of development, and I think the point-to-point solution approach is collapsing. I think the siloed approach to security is collapsing, or at least it should collapse, because I think bad actors definitely rely on the disorganization of some companies in order to find a way in and to do their damage, right? So I think that's kind of where the market's going, and I think as a kind of overarching guidance, it's really collaborate with your domain leaders within your organization to really solution these things, and when in doubt, ask for help, or ask for support from a third party like Optiv. I think with all of these disparate tools collapsing into a single platform, the one thing that is definitely going to be evident is noise, right? So I think with so many data sources now, being able to cut down the noise and being able to really understand what's important and what to respond to, because it's not like most organizations in this climate are adding large numbers of headcount within the security space, unfortunately. So they're having to do more with less. Automation's a great a great partner in that journey, and can definitely help help with that. But really being able to filter out the information that is necessary and is actionable, and is that prioritization matrix, I think is another area that companies need to really solve for. And thankfully, many of the modern solutions will really help with that. Nothing works out of the box, despite what the vendors may pitch in their marketing spiel, but they are getting better, right? So I think SOAR is a good example of where great solution. I love SOAR, but it really came out to the market at a time where AI wasn't a thing. I think the modern SOAR solutions, that's exciting, because now you don't have to do all of that really complex upfront configuration triage. You still got to do a little bit, but you've got a lower barrier to entry for really modernizing your SOC. So I think there are other things that really need to be considered, and ultimately where it's going to land is what is that best of breed approach, right? In choosing your solutions. I think the platform play is definitely leaning on that space a little bit, but understanding how you're solving for these real business problems is always the answer to everything. How do you work a problem? How do you get to an answer? Well, what's the business problem at its core, and how do we solve for that? And technology is an important part of it. It's not the whole thing. The whole consultant answer of people, process, technology. That's real, right? You need to, even if you spend a lot of money on a new tool or a platform, you got to invest in your people to upskill, to get them to use it, so you actually get it operationalized and an ROI out of that tool. But what are the security policies that are really going to make that effective, right? And that needs to be, a leadership-driven approach, but also a collaborative approach across the organization, so that you don't have those blind spots. So, I think that's my 2 cents around preparing for next gen SIEM. But I will say it is exciting. While I don't lead the SOAR practice anymore, I am excited about the introduction of AI into the modern SIEM and SOAR solutions, and I think that's really going to up-level SOC capabilities, which is definitely needed. Based on where the threat landscape is today.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think the platformatization of the market is going to continue to be a huge disruptor. So I think that'll be an interesting part to continue watching. If anyone out there has questions, please feel free to throw them in the chat. Otherwise, we did have one from earlier. I think we've covered this a little bit, but maybe we'll add a few more thoughts. Could AI and machine learning further evolve detection and response through the SIEM? And I think that the short answer there is yes, absolutely. As we've seen over the years, machine learning has really helped to start to build that baseline of what normal looks like for an entity, and then show us what is abnormal. Sometimes those things are maybe suspicious but not malicious, and we need to do some additional digging to see what's going on. But we're definitely see the machine learning has been going for a long time, and some of the machine learning blurs the line between what folks will call machine learning versus AI. But I think the AI helpers, especially with being able to do some of that initial triage of an event and do some of the things that we would have done with those fancy macros in the past. Now we have the AI run those for us, and it can gather the data, and based on what it sees and what we've trained it, help to do some of that reduction. So our level 1 analysts don't have to do quite so much grunt work anymore. I think those are a couple of the big areas that I see that it's helping us with. And again, helping just create queries sometimes, instead of needing to know the specific syntax that the SIEM requires. You can just ask it a normal human question. Show me all the logs that look like this from that device over this time period, and it'll kick out a query for you. So it can really make it a lot easier for new folks or folks that just don't use the tool very often to be more efficient and effective. Ed, do you have any additional thoughts around that?
Yeah. So natural language querying, which is what you're talking about there. I think that's huge. I'll use SOAR. I always go back to SOAR. But I think one of the real challenges historically of why SOAR wasn't adopted or wasn't, didn't live up to its potential was it was challenging, right? Because think about it from a SOC engineer standpoint. How do you effectively use SOAR? Maybe not today, but like how was it previously? All right, so you're essentially a business analyst because you need to do business process design, because you need to do the triage, you need to do the remediation, and you need to be able to work across different stakeholder groups to understand those requirements in order to do the configuration. So once you have all of that, then you also need to be a Python expert because that was how the models ran. So you needed to write those scripts. And really, if you wanted to run that effectively, you kind of needed to be a DevOps engineer, right? Because there was going to be changes, iterations. Like playbooks should never stay static. They should evolve and stay live. So that was always a challenge for organizations. And some, I work with plenty of organizations, and we helped them get there. And they had some great people, and they were using it, doing amazing playbooks that were monsters that would really handle the efficiency of some of that triage and response. But not every organization was able to get there, right? Because it wasn't easy. The capability to do it, the capacity to do it. I mean, lots of roadblocks there. I think AI is really helping not only on that natural language querying, because it means you don't need to know Python, or you don't need to know how to run a script to find all of the MongoDB databases in your environment, right? You can just freeform write it. But the other area where I think it's great from a talent standpoint, it's the same in cloud security. I mean, I spend a lot more of my time around CNAP these days than I do SIEM or SOAR, but it's kind of the same thing in the sense that not only can you do that natural language querying, but also many of the tools are spitting out recommended remediations with contextual information based on your environment, right? So it's basically, this is how we recommend you remediate this issue in your environment with your tech stack. And I would say always, with anything, it's the same as like using AI code gen. You need to sense check it, because it's, I would never say blindly rely on what AI says, because you could get in trouble real fast doing that. But it's really helping close that talent gap where a security engineer may not have all the experience in the steps needed to remediate a certain task, and they may not have familiarity of which solutions need to integrate into this, which teams need to have workflows run to them, or what have you. So it's really kind of closing that gap and really helping upskill. It's really like a learning and development tool in some respect. And I think that's huge for the SOC and for SIEM and SOAR. I think it's huge for cloud security as well, right? Because we're starting to see CNAP solutions, or particularly the cloud detection and response, or cloud investigation and response automation, rolling into the SOC. Because I mean, what is it at the end of the day? It's detecting vulnerabilities in your environment, albeit cloud-based, and that should probably sit in the SOC realistically. Historically, SOC engineers haven't really had a cloud background, right? Because cloud historically has been IT focused, right? And IT really led many of the cloud migrations that we've seen over the past 10 years within organizations. Security may have had a seat at the table. Maybe they had a loud voice, or maybe they had no voice at all from either a capability or capacity standpoint, right? So I think as a result of that, modern SOCs maybe don't have as much cloud security expertise as I would like, or as I think they should. And again, the AI integrations into some of the modern CNAP tools, are really helping to close that gap to an extent, because it's helping upskill, helping educate, SOC engineers on how to remediate some of these things, even if they're not an AWS, Microsoft, GCP, SME, which, there's only so many out there, right? So I think that's going to be the same for SIEM and SOAR, and modern SOCs in general. Is that like, yeah, that's really helping close that gap. And I think for me that's exciting, and for organizations to be able to do more with less. I think it's automation has been heralded as a way to do that for years, but it's always required a lot of work to get that automation going. Now, I feel like that barrier to entry is very much lowering, and I think that organizations will certainly benefit from that.
Yeah, that's great. And we did get one more question come in. What's the role AI is playing in the future of the Optiv SOC? And so I think we have a couple of different flavors of SOC here. We have our own internal, then we have our managed services, and then our fully managed or MDR solution. And our MDR solution today is backed by Google SecOps, and so we're absolutely using some of the AI capabilities there as we're triaging the events as they come in. When we're doing the co-management, we're limited a little bit by what the tools that we're co-managing can do. If they have capabilities, we're generally using them to help us triage those events faster and get our clients the right information. For our own internal SOC, we're working through some things. The tool that we have right now has some good alerting capabilities built into it that are more machine learning kind of driven today, but we're working to build out some additional features and functionalities to help us to be, again, just more efficient and all the rest of the things that we've talked about. So I think we can work through all that, and Ed and I are always happy to join you all for calls to discuss all this stuff further. If that would be helpful, you can always reach out to your Optiv account team and they will do that. But Ed, it's been a great discussion today on the future of SIEM. And we want to thank everybody who joined with us to have this conversation on LinkedIn Live. You can connect with us at optiv.com to learn more about our solutions here at Optiv and see where they may fit your needs. Or for more insights, you can subscribe to our LinkedIn newsletter. Thanks again for joining us, and have a great rest of your day.